Have you ever caught yourself hesitating when someone asks your age? Maybe you smile, dodge the question, or even shave off a few years just to avoid the look of surprise or worse, pity in their eyes. It's something so many of us do, especially after 75, because society has this way of making us feel like getting older is something to hide, like it's a flaw we need to cover up. But what if I told you that embracing every single year you've lived could be the key to feeling more alive, more confident, and more free than you have in decades? I'm here to share a perspective that comes straight from the heart of a 93-year-old who's learned a thing or two about living boldly. And trust me, it's going to change the way you see your age. If you're over 75, or even if you're approaching that milestone, you've probably felt the weight of those unspoken rules, the ones that say you're supposed to slow down, fade into the background, or let the younger folks take the spotlight. It's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to keep up with what the world expects while pretending you're not carrying the wisdom of a lifetime. But here's the good news. You don't have to play that game anymore. There's a way to step into your age with pride, to own every wrinkle and every story, and to live in a way that feels liberating and true to who you are. In this video, we're diving into 4 powerful truths that a 93-year-old shared with me, truths that helped her stop hiding her age and start living with a kind of joy and freedom most people only dream of. By the end, you'll have practical ways to embrace your age, feel more confident in your own skin, and maybe even inspire a few people along the way. So stick with me, because this is going to be a conversation that could shift everything for you. Let's start with the first truth. Your age is your story, and it's worth telling. I met this incredible woman, Margaret, at a community center where she was teaching a memoir writing class at 93. She stood at the front of the room, her silver hair glowing under the lights, and the first thing she said was, "I'm 93, and I've never been more interesting." The room laughed, but you could feel the truth in her words. She wasn't hiding her age, she was wearing it like a badge of honor. Margaret told us that for years, she used to dread people asking how old she was. She'd mumble something vague or change the subject, because she worried they'd see her as frail or irrelevant. But one day, she realized that every year she'd lived was part of a story no one else could tell. Her 20s were about raising 3 kids on a shoestring budget. Her 50s were when she went back to school and became a teacher. Her 80s? That's when she started painting and had her first art show. Each decade was a chapter, and pretending she was younger felt like ripping pages out of her book. So how do you start owning your story, like Margaret? It's simpler than you think. Next time someone asks your age, don't shy away. Say it with a smile. Maybe even add a little context. For example, "I'm 78, and let me tell you, I've seen some things." It's not about bragging, it's about giving yourself permission to be proud of the life you've lived. Try this. Sit down with a notebook and jot down one moment from each decade of your life that shaped who you are. Maybe it's the time you moved to a new city with nothing but a suitcase, or the year you learned to dance and surprised everyone at a wedding. These moments are your credentials, proof that you've been through storms and come out stronger. Sharing them, even in small ways, reminds you and everyone else that your age isn't a limitation, it's a legacy. When you start seeing your years as a story worth telling, you'll notice something shift. You'll stand a little taller, speak a little bolder, and feel a little freer. Now, let's move to the second truth. Hiding your age can hold you back from new experiences. Margaret shared a story that really stuck with me. In her late 70s, she was invited to join a hiking group, but she almost said no because she thought, "I'm too old for this. They'll all be younger, fitter, faster." She worried they'd judge her for slowing them down or that she wouldn't keep up. But then she thought, what's the worst that could happen? I'll walk at my own pace. So she showed up, told the group she was 78, and asked for a little patience. To her surprise, they didn't just accommodate her, they admired her. She ended up making friends who invited her to book clubs, pottery classes, and even a wine-tasting trip. By being open about her age, she opened doors to experiences she never would have had if she'd stayed home, pretending she was too old to try. Here's how you can put this into action. Think about something you've been wanting to try but hesitated because you felt your age was a barrier. Maybe it's joining a choir, taking a yoga class, or even signing up for a dating app. Whatever it is, take one small step toward it. Call a friend and ask them to come along for moral support. Or, if you're feeling bold, show up and be honest about where you're at. You might say, "I'm 80 and I've never done this before, so bear with me." Most people will respect your courage, and you'll likely find they're more welcoming than you expected. The key is to stop letting the fear of being too old keep you from the things that light you up. When you embrace your age, you give yourself permission to try, to fail, and to grow no matter how many candles are on your cake. These first two truths, owning your story and opening yourself to new experiences, are just the beginning of what it means to stop hiding your age. They're about stepping out from behind the curtain of shame or fear and letting the world see you for who you are, someone with a lifetime of wisdom, resilience, and curiosity. As we keep going, we'll explore how embracing your age can deepen your connections with others and help you live with a sense of purpose that feels fresh and exciting. So let's keep this conversation going and dive into what comes next. Let's keep this conversation going, because the next truth we're diving into is something that can truly transform the way you connect with the people around you. The third truth from our 93-year-old friend Margaret is this: being open about your age builds deeper, more honest relationships. I remember sitting with Margaret over a cup of tea as she told me about a moment that changed how she saw her friendships. In her early 80s, she used to avoid mentioning her age when she met new people. She'd laugh it off or steer the conversation elsewhere, worried they'd treat her differently, like she was fragile or out of touch. But one day, at a book club, someone asked her point blank how old she was. Instead of dodging, she took a deep breath and said, "I'm 82, and I've got a lot of stories to share." The room lit up. People started asking her about her life, her travels, even her take on the book they were reading. By being upfront, she didn't just answer a question, she opened a door to real connection. Think about the last time you met someone new. Maybe you felt that urge to hold back, to keep your age a secret so they wouldn't make assumptions. It's natural to want to protect yourself from judgment. But here's what Margaret learned. When you're honest about your age, you give others permission to be real with you, too. It's like laying your cards on the table and saying, "This is me. Take it or leave it." And more often than not, people will take it. They'll see your authenticity and respond with their own. So, how do you start? Try this in your next conversation, whether it's with a neighbor, a family member, or even someone at the grocery store. When the topic of age comes up, even if it doesn't share a little piece of your truth, you might say, "I'm 77, and I'm still figuring out this smartphone thing." Or, "At 80, I've learned a thing or two about gardening." It's not about forcing your age into the chat. It's about letting it be part of who you are, naturally. You'll be surprised how often it sparks a smile, a story, or a connection that feels genuine. Margaret told me about a friend she made at that book club, a woman in her 60s named Clara. Clara admitted later that she was nervous to talk to Margaret at first, thinking someone in their 80s might not relate to her. But when Margaret was open about her age and her life, Clara felt safe to share her own fears about getting older. They ended up bonding over their love of mysteries and their shared habit of staying up too late reading. That friendship wouldn't have happened if Margaret had hidden who she was. So next time you're tempted to sidestep your age, remember, being upfront can turn a casual chat into a meaningful moment. It's like planting a seed for a relationship that could grow into something beautiful. Now, let's move to the fourth truth, which is all about finding purpose by embracing every year you've lived. Margaret said something that really stuck with me. When I stopped pretending to be younger, I started living for what matters most. In her 70s, she used to spend so much energy trying to seem spry or relevant, dressing a certain way, avoiding certain topics, even pushing herself to keep up with trends that didn't really interest her. It was exhausting, and it left her feeling like she was chasing someone else's idea of a good life. But when she hit her 80s and decided to stop hiding her age, something clicked. She realized that her years gave her a unique perspective, one that could make a difference in her community. So she started volunteering at the local library, reading to kids and helping adults with their writing. At 93, she's still there every week, sharing her love of stories and showing those kids that life doesn't stop when you get older. Here's what's so powerful about this. Your age gives you a kind of authority, a voice that carries weight because of the life you've lived. But you only tap into that when you stop pretending to be anything other than who you are. So how do you find that sense of purpose? Start by asking yourself, what do I know that could help someone else? Maybe you've got a knack for cooking and could teach a neighbor how to make your famous soup. Or maybe you've got decades of experience in something gardening, woodworking, even just listening that you could share with a local group. Margaret's advice is to start small. Find one thing you love, one way you can give back, and don't worry about being the oldest person in the room. When she started volunteering, she was nervous she'd be out of place. But the kids at the library didn't care about her age, they cared about her stories. And those adults in her writing class, they respected her because she showed up as herself, wrinkles and all. Try this. This week, look for one opportunity to share something you've learned over the years. It could be as simple as telling a grandchild about a lesson from your childhood or offering a tip to a friend who's struggling. If you're feeling adventurous, check out a local community center or library and see if there's a way to get involved, even just an hour a week. When you embrace your age, you stop worrying about proving yourself and start focusing on what you can give. And that, Margaret says, is where the real joy comes from. It's not about being young, it's about being you, fully and unapologetically. These truths-building, honest relationships and finding purpose are like stepping stones to a life that feels richer and more meaningful. They're about letting go of the pressure to hide and stepping into the power of who you are right now. As we wrap up this part of our chat, we're not done yet. There's more to explore about how these ideas can come together to help you live with a sense of freedom and joy that's all your own. So let's keep going and see where this journey takes us next. As we wrap up this journey with the wisdom of our 93-year-old friend Margaret, I want to bring everything together and leave you with a sense of possibility. We've talked about owning your story, embracing new experiences, building honest relationships, and finding purpose by being true to your age. These ideas all point to one big truth. When you stop hiding your age, you start living in a way that's authentic and fulfilling. Margaret's life is proof of that. And I want to share a final piece of her story to show you how these truths come full circle, plus give you a few practical ways to make this real in your own life. By the end, you'll feel ready to step into your age with confidence and maybe even a little excitement. Let's revisit Margaret for a moment. At 93, she's not just teaching memoir classes or volunteering at the library, she's living with a kind of lightness that comes from letting go of society's expectations. She told me that one of the best moments of her life happened just last year, when her granddaughter asked her to speak at her college's senior center event. Margaret was nervous. She thought, what do I have to say to a room full of people who might see me as just an old lady? But she said yes. And when she stood up to share her story, her full story, age and all, the room was captivated. People came up afterward, some in their 20s, some in their 80s, thanking her for reminding them that life doesn't have an expiration date. That moment wasn't just about public speaking. It was about Margaret showing up as her whole self, unafraid to say, I'm 93, and I'm still here, still growing, still mattering. That brings us to how you can tie all these truths together in your own life. Embracing your age isn't a one-time decision. It's a series of small choices that add up to a big shift. Start with something simple. The next time you look in the mirror, notice the lines on your face and think of one moment in your life that put them there. Maybe it's the laugh lines from years of joking with your best friend, or the worry lines from raising a family through tough times. Those lines aren't flaws, they're proof of a life well lived. Let that sink in, and carry that feeling into your day. When you're out in the world, whether it's at the grocery store or a family gathering, don't shy away from mentioning your age. Try saying it with a bit of pride, like, I'm 79, and I still make the best apple pie you'll ever taste. It's a small act, but it's powerful. It's you claiming your place in the world, not as someone who's old, but as someone who's lived. Another way to bring this to life is to keep saying yes to things that scare you, just like Margaret did with that hiking group or that college speech. Maybe there's a class you've been curious about: photography, knitting, even something techie, like learning to use Zoom for a virtual book club. Sign up, and don't let the thought of being the oldest person in the room stop you. If you're worried about keeping up, be upfront about it. You might say, "I'm 82, and this is new to me, so I might need a little extra time." Most people will admire your courage, and you'll likely find a friend or two who's cheering you on. These experiences aren't just about learning something new, they're about reminding yourself that your age doesn't define what you're capable of. And who knows, you might inspire someone else to take a chance, too. Now, let's talk about the people in your life. If you've been hesitant to share your age, try opening up with someone you trust: a friend, a child, a grandchild. Share a story from your past that your age gives you the perspective to tell. Maybe it's about a time you overcame something tough, like moving to a new town with no money or rebuilding after a loss. These stories don't just connect you to others, they remind you of your own strength. And when you share them, you're not just that older person in the room, you're the one with the wisdom, the one who's seen things others haven't. That's what Margaret found when she started being open. Her relationships got richer because she wasn't hiding anymore. You can do the same, and it starts with one honest conversation. As you think about all this, I want to leave you with a gentle reminder. You don't have to do everything at once. Embracing your age is about progress, not perfection. Maybe today you write down one memory that makes you proud of your years. Maybe tomorrow you tell someone your age without flinching. Maybe next week you try something new, even if it feels a little daunting. Each step is a victory, a way of saying, "I'm here, and I'm not fading into the background." Margaret's 93 years have taught her that life gets better when you stop pretending and start living as you are. And you know what? You can start right now, today, no matter where you are or how many years you've got under your belt. So, what do you think? Have you ever felt that pressure to hide your age? Or maybe you've had a moment like Margaret's, where you owned it and felt free? Drop a comment below and share your story. I'd love to hear it, and I bet others would too. If this video spoke to you, give it a like. It helps more people find these kinds of conversations. And if you want more ideas for living your best life at any age, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss a thing. Here's to stepping into your age with pride, with joy, and with all the wisdom you've earned. You've got this, and I'll see you in the next video.